right. This is Maryland, and my guests are Sombre
Hello.
and Lucid.
Buenos dias.
And there's one little thing here. What's going on? Da, 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 da. Got one of the streams going and one not going. Nope, they should both be going now. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna just take a look, refresh my page, and make sure that seeing what we're supposed to see. Refresh my page.
Is
All right.
anyone who kind of following you at Maryland, are they familiar with who Lucid is and who I am?
Oh yeah, I don't know. A lot of them would be familiar with you for sure because most of them are fairly long time people on the Dominions groups, the Discords. Yeah, so we got about 4 watching right now. Some on Twitch, some on Twitch, and some on YouTube. And I'll just review that what we kind of agreed we're going to talk about is Sombre and I are both on beta. Lucid is not, but he's extremely knowledgeable, and he also put up the second speculative video about what has been shared about what's in Dominion 6 and what might be coming. I kind of need to stay with what has already been announced, so I put up the page on the Dominion 6 general discussion from the Steam forum of things that other people have put together as a curated list of what's been shared. So hopefully that gets us to a start point. And questions feel free, and the folks watching on text, if you have questions, feel free to ask. We may answer that. We're not going to talk about that right now, so be aware.
So our instructions from Illwinter were largely don't share any screenshots, don't share any videos at this moment from
Right.
Dominion 6. Other than that, we can talk about some things, including mechanics and so on. Don't talk about potential new nations and things like that. That's all stuff that they want to reveal themselves at the proper time. So we're more we've just been talking about kind of mechanical changes and things like that have been coming out from the testers. And we can reveal some new things, but I tend to be quite cautious about revealing things that aren't very small, because there's quite a lot out already, and it'll be a while before Dominion 6 is out. So I think it's good to keep a kind of sustained interest in it.
Right. Yeah, and myself, I've answered questions. Usually I'll say, that's a small question, like, is there new spells of this type? I'll answer that, but I won't give a pile of detail. The other thing I've tended to share is I've been running my first sort of decent test game or expansion game with Bandar. So I've been sharing the hilarities of what's happened there. Hey Bartek, hey Davos, Gorwo. So
I guess I'll ask a question on
you
some of that.
go right ahead.
For the nations you guys have been playing, like Bandar Log, obviously some of the nations are going to get this new Glamour path. I don't know if that's one of them.
And there's a fun one. There's a fun reveal I made there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, how much is Bandar? Does it feel mostly the same? Does it feel a lot different? Because there's like a bunch of things that affect everybody.
Well, there's
but
one great.
How are the individual nations feeling?
Pretty cool.
Like, answer a bit about Bandar first.
Yeah. I was gonna maybe talk about that. So the first thing that showed up right off the bat was Bandar's elephants are substantially more interesting and effective than they were.
Right. Do they have archers on top, or what?
They
have
do.
A hobby on top, right?
They have a driver, a mahout, and 2 archers. And they shoot.
That's awesome.
And they hit. That was.
And it's not just a case with like when you have horse archers where you go like maybe hold and attack rear or something, and you get 2 rounds of them shooting their bows. The trampling units, those archers, because they're not actually the main guy directing the elephant, they're free to just keep firing.
Right. And even the little guy has a little hammer and he hits stuff once in a while.
He does, yeah.
Like he whacked somebody with his little hammer, which was
a bug. There was a bug crawling.
Oh yeah, he whacked a beetle. He killed a beetle with his hammer. So
Well,
how did he
okay,
hit
do
the
they have
beetle?
to be high enough? Like, they can only hit giants that can reach up to the elephant, or can he?
He hit
He
it.
could hit a bug on the floor with a hammer. What?
Well, maybe the bug was going up the leg.
Okay.
So we're using our imagination a bit there, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally
mechanically,
imagination.
mechanically, what is the answer to that? I'm not sure. I've asked because yeah, should it be that the rider has to have a long weapon if the mount is tall in order
Right.
to reach? You know, most of the elephant rider melee weapons tend to be like long spears. I think. Is it who has the long speared elephants? Is it Ragga? One of them's got elephants.
Raga
In
does.
the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
Then
I think Arco
Arco
might
as
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like the later era
Yeah.
one.
it's
So yeah,
also
there obviously you've got the repel, but also they can hit things
right.
because they're long. So but currently it may be that this has changed, but currently the rider, even with a little length one hammer, he can still hit things.
Well,
But
that's actually consistent with Dominions 5 mechanics, because you could be like a huge dragon and have a link to 0 weapon, and there's nothing in current Dominions 5 that says if you're really big and you have a really small weapon that you can't hit something on the ground. And that's only really
yeah,
relevant if you have a mount, which we haven't really had as separate units before.
right. Well,
Yeah, it's going to come up, hasn't it, as a new not edge
well,
case. But
you're finding
thing
Somber
to-
too. Somebody's finding Somber's. He's finding you too quiet. I'll have to turn you up. You sound fine to me, but I'll just turn you up. Okay, let's try that again.
Am I any better
Um,
now? How are the levels?
That would be
Okay, so another question on these. Can you give, so if you tell the elephant, like if you give it an order, you could give it an order to fire, will it respond to that? Will it stand there as like a weapons platform and shoot?
I don't know the
Or
answer
because the
because
base elephant doesn't have a can't shoot, it's only the riders. Like, how does that work? Because you have basically 2 units that could have 2 totally different weapon types. Like, you could imagine a dragon you're riding that has a beam weapon, and an archer on top that can shoot an arrow. And if you tell it to fire, like, what happens? These are, I mean, I'm not assuming you know the answer, but
no, I because all I used was hold attack rear, and they shot. As soon as they got in range, they started shooting, and they kept shooting all the way.
We will
Okay.
definitely keep shooting, and what I'm going
Oh,
to
yeah.
do, because I think that's a really specific question. It's fair enough. I'll try and answer that now. So I'm going to go take a quick.
Oh,
look
okay,
at
yeah. See if you can figure that out.
large mammoths. So if you just keep it up while I'm figuring that out.
Yeah. So, anyways, so my interpretation here is that you give orders to the mount or to the main unit, which in the case, so if you're giving I guess it looks like the orders that determine how it moves go to the mount. The orders, yeah, that's Somber. I'm working on that volume, and it's kind of odd that it's quiet on your end. I'll turn it up some more. So the orders I gave in all cases were simply either attack rear, hold attack rear, and what I saw was the elephant goes charging forward, and the archers shoot as soon as something's in range and keep shooting, and they shoot at whatever's closest, mostly. And they're reasonably effective because, of course, the range is brought down to next to nothing.
right.
And this is middle age, so they have a decent chance of doing some damage on the armor of the time. If you were running short bow archers on a late age elephant, yeah, your results would probably be less satisfying.
Right.
So I have an answer to this. If you've got an elephant with the main rider, so you've got a main rider, and then you've got 2 supplementary riders, and then you've got the mount. Basically, that's what the unit's made of. So you've got in the case of a mammoth, which is what I was looking at, you've got a mammoth rider, a couple of Spirehorn archers, the Kalians that are riding it, and then you've got the mammoth. If you give them an order to fire, which normally with mounted archer they just stay where they are and fire, they wouldn't close in. Because the mammoth rider doesn't have any missile weapons, they will just walk forward, and like if you gave a fire order to some infantry, they'll just go and fight normally. And the whole time
Oh,
the Spirehorn
okay.
archers will be firing.
So
you
the
can't get the mammoth to stay back by doing that, but you could tell it to hold for 2 turns,
Right.
and guard
Now-
commander, I imagine.
So the interpretation is the orders you're giving are to the driver.
So for the mammoth, is the main unit the elephant? Like because I remember like on the screenshot they had on Dominion 6, there's like the Emerald Knight, and
No,
the thing
that-
on the left, the main unit is the human.
The
and
first
the
the
horse.
first unit is the Mahout. The
Yeah, so
driver.
Mammoth Rider in the case
Yeah.
of Mammoth.
Elephant
it's
elephant
the main
rider.
driver. You can
Right.
think of it, it's got one driver, two passengers, and then the mount.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
so you're probably giving the order to that main driver then.
That's
So if he doesn't have a missile weapon,
yes.
he can't stay and shoot.
Right.
But for
say
something
that's
like a
true.
horse rider or like a horse archer, because the main rider has a bow, they probably would be able to just fire.
You can do that, although because they are, controlling the horse. If you've just got one person, a horse archer on a horse, then except in a particular special case, they will only be able to, shoot or move like horse archers currently do in Dominion 5. But there is a special case where they can fire while moving, which is in Dominion 6.
Is that fire and keep distance or something, or?
No, fire and keep distance does still exist as an order, and I've actually observed it working better, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. I got asked that question by somebody and I couldn't answer.
It's definitely better. I don't know if it's better for all horse archers, but there are some horse archers which are a special case regarding being able to fire and move at the same time.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So that's a new bit of information, but it's a pretty small one because it's a particular special case rather than it being an overall thing with horse archers.
Right.
Although we'll see if it's very interesting. Maybe Ilwinter will extend it to more.
Well, we do have confirmation that the
horse archer system.
base battlefield is bigger, so it's longer.
There's that too, yeah.
And so that I was asked, is that going to make fire and keep distance work better? I couldn't answer, but
Okay,
So
now
if I
y'all don't have to answer this, of course, but
Sure.
I'm just thinking this actually is probably. I can't imagine it's going to be in vanilla, but I'm sure modders are going to want to try like get a hold of this. Can you have magic like spell casting, maybe innate caster mounts? Like, I'm imagining somebody writing like a spell casting golem or a spell casting dragon or something. That would be freaking cool.
I think if you took if innate caster worked in Dominion 6 the way that it does in Dominions 5, and I admit I have not really done any testing of innate caster. That's something I've been waiting to do for some kind of bug fixes and things. But if it worked the same way, and you had put them on a mount, which you could tell to go off and trample. Like, let's say you've got a spellcaster riding a big undead elephant, which is obviously what the
Right.
behemoth.
Yeah.
So he's a unit, but imagine that he is a like a commander. In Dominions 5, and he's got innate cast. I think if you gift of reason them or true name them, whatever, then your divine name them, you do get a caster, don't you? Behemoths, I think.
yeah, I haven't
Innate.
I haven't tried any mounted magi yet, so I haven't seen that mechanic of do they cast as they run or whatever.
If they worked the same way as they did in Dominions 5 and they were an innate caster, then yes. But
Innate, yeah.
And they would
Right.
trample and they would casting things at the same time, because that is how it would work in Dominions 5.
Give me-
with the
There's
addition the
sort of a
mount being
precedence for it in Dominions 5, like the character, the Pocket Lich.
Hmm.
It's like you're carrying around a spellcaster with the same unit. Like there's
Yes.
not another sprite, I don't think, right?
Yeah.
Or wait,
Oh, yeah,
it-
there
wait,
is.
No. That one there's a sprite. There's another one, Nurgle or something. What is it called?
Hmm.
The brain in a jar. No,
The brain
Yeah,
thing. That
yeah.
one you don't get another unit. It just
No.
casts shit from your own dude.
Yeah. So
It's
let me
kind of like a mounted unit, that one, isn't it?
Right.
It's like having
That's
a
what I'm
mounted
saying.
unit.
Yeah.
give me a second to answer some text questions here.
Okay.
They're short. Let's see. First off, are there Hoborgs as a nation? We've been asked not to talk about nations, and I don't know.
Can't talk
So-
about that.
Yeah, but I can't.
Ind,
So,
Ind does still have the little men who get attacked by birds. They're still
Yeah. So I can't really
Pickaninnies.
answer that one. Turin came into the chat, so he did verify that size increase. Revolutio asked, are there sacred riders without sacred mounts? I don't know. The only ones I've checked were all both sacred rider and sacred mount.
So
Have
you
you?
have to test lots of edge cases, obviously, being
Yeah.
on a testing team. I've messed around with a lot of this stuff, and yes, you can have that. You can
Oh,
have
okay.
a sacred rider with a non-sacred mount, and the other way around.
Okay, so there are some. We
You
don't,
could even have a mammoth that's not sacred, a driver of the mammoth that's not sacred, and then the passengers could be sacred.
okay. Okay, so it's a very broad potential, and just all the details we don't really know. One more text question. Freak Lord, is the freak the rider or the mount? I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah, we've always wanted to know that. Which one is the Freak Lord?
Don't know.
Who is the Freak? Who is the Lord?
Do sacred mounts increase the holy point costs? Not that I've seen. And boost the
Yeah, that also
volume.
is weird for. I can't think of any mounted commanders, but it also begs the question: how would it interact with Twiceborn and stuff? Like, especially
Yeah,
Freak Lord.
yeah,
Like,
for sure.
In Dominions 5, you Twiceborn him, he's a size 5. But if he's really a size 2 human on top of a mount, then or a size 3 human on top of a mount in Dominion 6, like what is he?
Yeah.
So I was testing pretty much all edge cases involving mounted commanders and mounted casters, because this is, obviously with this being a big change, there's a lot of things to test. There's all kinds of stuff. What if they're flying and the mount isn't flying? What if they can breathe underwater and the mount can't breathe underwater, and so on and so on and so on. So there's lots of things I've been testing, but something has just changed recently in terms of like an implementation of commanders and mounts, and so I'm going to be retesting things. So basically, I knew that was coming, so I stopped testing. So
well, I have to say, on the idea of
can't
what's
confirm that
cool, the whole upgrade or change to the mounted system is very interesting. I did glance briefly at the War Lobster. That looks like an interesting unit now. So
yeah, the Cave Drake ride is a classic one as well.
oh, that would be a cool one. Yeah. One more question from the text. Oh, more sprites. There are sprites being made all the time.
Oh yes, and some very, very beautiful. There was one the other day, which is one of my favorite sprites I've ever seen that KO's done.
Which one was it?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
The
fine.
new one.
That's fine. But I have seen some nice upgraded sprites, particularly mounts and riders.
Speaking of mounts again, so are there ways to get different mounts to like change your mounts? And I guess some of this actually comes back to mechanically how it's implemented. Like if you have
which has just changed.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I'm thinking like if let's say we have a heavy infantry person on a horse, could you just as a modder slap any human on any horse and then it's like, oh, I know how to generate a sprite for that? Or do you have to have a special like mounted version of the human sprite to go onto the horse?
So you mean in terms of the sprites, like are they using layers that they're putting on top of each other, or is it like, are they modular or are they separate sprites? Is that what you're asking about?
So imagine you have like a human. They've got 2 sprites for each unit. And let's say it's like a heavy infantry. If I wanted to just slap that unit, that exact unit, onto a horse as a modder,
it would look bad.
do you have to make any new sprites, or is it just like, oh, well, I know what to do with this. I chop off the base or stick it just behind a horse sprite and call it a day?
The dismounted sprites have 2 legs, staggered, and a shield and a sword, the ones I've seen, and look like a heavy infantry. If you stuck that onto a horse, you'd have 2 legs on one side, like side saddle, I think.
But it doesn't like auto crop it or something.
No.
Stick it on a horse.
There isn't. No, there's You're thinking maybe of things like people watching this may be familiar with like Unit Gen and Nation Gen.
Right. Yeah.
Little things they're like modular. They put it together. Go, oh, it's this shield and so on.
Right.
The output of those is single sprites, or attack sprite, idle sprite. It's attack sprite, idle sprite, basically. But I should say, in terms of modding, basically very little is implemented at the moment, because modding is something we're looking at later in the beta testing. So I can't actually. Basically, the mod parser is not updated at all yet. It will be, so it can't read anything new. So you can't do mounted stuff in the mods at the moment. But that's because it hasn't been developed yet.
Oh, okay. That's a good response. So, in effect, you have the modding commands the same as Dominions 5. That doesn't include any new mechanics. Would that be?
Yes, except for the case of the AI templates, which we can talk about at some point as well.
Okay. Cool. So,
if I had to guess, I would guess that, because there may be people wanting mods who are listening. You would probably have the sprite for the dismounted, attack and idle sprite. You would have the sprite for the mounted, combined mount and rider, and you would have a sprite for the mount itself.
Yeah. So a standard single rider mount has 6 sprites currently.
So that actually is going to answer my other question, which is, could you like summon a custom mount And the answer is you probably couldn't, because you'd have to have a custom sprite for that mount combined with that unit. So that's not really gonna. Because I was thinking, how I got on this train of thought is I was thinking Twiceborn. What if you Twiceborned and you were like a mounted commander? What if your horse came back as like a long dead horse or something?
Yeah,
Like that would be
yeah.
cool. And I was like, but you can't do that unless it was like actually baked into like
Well,
a specific
yeah.
Twiceborn thing, you know?
Yeah,
For
maybe. I mean, there's a limited list of Twiceborn results already, right?
right.
So if you think about that limited list, and then you think maybe some of the things, if they get Twiceborn and
Oh
killed,
yeah.
the game knows they're mounted. So maybe now it goes, oh, you were a size 3,
Right.
because it used to be size 2 humanoid. You're a humanoid. You're now like a. What do they turn into? A white, isn't it? They turn into a white
Yeah,
mage.
yeah, white.
You could be a white mage, and maybe the mounted tag would mean it's a white mage on a zombie horse or a white mage on a skeletal horse.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows? I don't know how Twiceborn is going to work, especially with
I
mounted.
could certainly imagine it being possible, potentially with mod commands anyway,
Right.
even if it's not.
I've got another question here. Vava Gray, more than 2 sprites for every unit in Dominion. So how many units are there currently in the game? 3,500, or am I understating it?
I think it might be a bit more than that now. I can check
Yeah.
the ranges.
So you're looking at 7,000 to 10,000 sprites currently in the game. If you were to add a 3rd sprite to each unit to increase the animation, for example, well, that's another 3,500 sprites. So
Yeah,
that's
they'd
a
have
that's
to do
a
a unit gen something, or they
that's
wouldn't
a
do it.
that's a massive
for-
amount of
yeah.
work for
Yeah.
relatively little improvement. I wanted to mention, when we're on the Bandar log, the funniest thing that happened to me there was, so people know that there are now trees and rocks and boulders and stuff on the battlefield. They're randomly generated when the battle opens, I believe. That's how it looks.
Well,
Well,
I don't think the layout's consistent.
no, but it turns out if you go into a swamp, it's actually little mushrooms.
There are some mushrooms, yep.
Yeah, and the mushrooms can blow up. Now, I think the mechanic is they only blow up because they have stats, they have health and stuff. I think they only blow up if you destroy them, but of course, I sent elephants, and they trampled all the mushrooms. So, an entire dead army. So that
because the poison hit the riders too, right?
it hit everything. It's a cloud.
So the elephant maybe is okay with a bit of poison, 10, 20
a
points
bit.
of poison damage. The riders though,
But the mushrooms that I saw were scattered about every 3rd square, maybe 4th. So I mean, you couldn't miss them.
it could be quite dense, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was a funny little result. And when it happened, I was so caught off guard. I just blurted it out without even, I was just, oh wow, this was cool.
Well, so it got me thinking. Like, there's all sorts of things that could change. Like, so lightning bolt, right? In Dominions 5, it's not an area of effect spell. It's a single target spell, and it was actually a pretty good way to kill like cavalry units, which typically have like high defense and protection.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but now if you hit a cavalry, it'll either hit the rider or the mount, right? Like, it's not gonna. Is there gonna be like a new class of spells?
I don't know.
Which will hit rider and mount, or is it just
Well,
single target or area of effect?
Well, clouds. I mean, we know that there was significant upgrades to clouds. I don't know how all that works. Somber might.
So, I think it's a good question. I'm just pondering how best to answer this. There are spells which can hit single target but include mount.
Is that just like charm stuff, or
Oh.
are we talking?
I'm
we're
not
talking
gonna reveal
damage.
the full extent of.
But
spells that
is
do
it
that,
damage stuff? Or no?
There are spells that do damage to both, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that. A few more questions from text here. Let's see if I can deal with them. You can recruit the missing part of a mounted unit. So if the mount dies, the riders may get back to a fort. And I say may. They don't always. If they get back, in the fort recruitment, you see a little bluish indication that you have 1, 2, however many extra riders around. You get a discounted new unit. So that probably won't work with summit mounted units. I don't think there's a way for that to work. I can't say for sure, but right now, he was asking about long dead horsemen. I suspect that if long dead horsemen get dismounted, you lose both, because
Right.
That's my
It
guess.
varies between different mounts. Yeah, there's like a bunch of properties of mounts and riders that kind of modify some of these things. And so there are some riders who make their way home and then can purchase the unit itself, and you get the rider and mount at a discount. And there are also some mounts that is true of.
Oh,
So
I
a mount
didn't
is able
find
to
those because the
take you to an
tigers, the tigers and the elephants don't get home.
I presume a tiger just goes, see ya.
Yeah, because
if the rider
it's
gets killed and just goes off
it's
into the wild.
mostly a wild animal. I will
Hey,
note.
they can summon tigers, man. Those are loyal Bandar tigers.
Yeah,
I presume those are ensorcelled in some way. Yeah,
could
the
be.
summoned ones must be.
There's a bit of a weird one with the elephants. With 3 riders, you usually don't get all 3 get back. So, and it doesn't have an indication that 2 came back. You can see it in the messages window, but there's no indication in the recruit screen. So you don't get a discounted elephant until you get 3 of them successfully get back.
Yeah, they stack up in 3s. And
Yeah,
Wait,
but
so
there's no
what happens
indication.
with an elephant if you lose 1 rider?
I don't know because it's hard. I couldn't tell. You know the favorite V key that you use.
If 1 monkey gets sniped off the top of a rider and you lose the whole elephant, we're
I
gonna
don't
have to have
believe
words.
No, I don't
Okay.
think that's the
Okay.
case.
That's not,
No,
I don't believe that's the case. No.
Everybody knows the monkeys are replaceable.
Yeah, infinitely.
It's a bit difficult to test because if you're testing it just against ordinary, indies and things, or in a war, the mount is going to get hit a lot more because of the way that length and hit locations works, which is similar to the way that it works in Dominions 5. That
Right.
if you have a very big thing, the high up parts of it, the head, and so on, you're less likely to hit unless you've got a long weapon. And it's the same thing with a big mount. So the elephant takes the brunt of the hits. So
That's what
typically
I've
the
seen.
elephant
Yeah.
will get
Definitely.
killed, and the riders will tumble to the ground.
Oh,
From that.
and they can get hurt falling down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one didn't get killed, but it got. I laughed at that. It literally had a message. The rider fell off and took 3 points.
But I'll test it, and I'll make sure that it's working the way that Illwinter intended to. Which if you imagine you've got very lightly armored monkeys riding the back of elephants, what I'll do is I'll just put up the protection on the elephants in some mod commands, and then I'll fire archers at them and see what happens to the.
So what?
Now, Sombre, I'm not a Warhammer aficionado, but I could imagine the greenskins would have a unit like a huge ass ogre that has a goblin strapped to the back riding it, and the goblin has like explosives. And if the ogre ever dies and the goblin falls to the ground, he's like,
have a death explosion.
He's pulling out the claymore.
Could be.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff
Well,
I'm really looking forward to, and we'll
that's
see.
Like Mad Max Thunderdome.
Yeah, the second I heard about the separate mounts and riders, the first thing I thought about was the tramplers with people on the back and the howders and things. And I'm so happy with the way Illwinter did it. And the second thing I thought was, the Stegodon in Warhammer Lizardman is going to be so cool.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's one of the funny things. In response to my video I put out, some people were like, and I think this is a fair comment, but a lot of people who watched it who aren't like major Dominions players, and they were like, this just seems like a major patch. This doesn't seem like a huge new game. And I think as we're talking through the mount stuff, because you can look at the mounts like, oh, we've split mounts to be like 2 units, and you can be like, oh, that's not really that big of a change. It's like a patch. It's a really big change. Like, it's going to change so many things about how the game works. It's going to be like more immersive. It allows like crazy modding things. I think it's going to be amazing.
Oh,
I'm going to give the. Sorry, go ahead, Milo.
Well, I was just going to say we're on 30 minutes, 20 of which we've talked about mounts and riders, and we can't answer so many of the questions. For example, I can't answer what is the hit location between mount and rider because it's really hard to tell. There's so much going on the battle. And I was also mentioning that, the V key, that you look at a unit and go, well, what happened to this specific unit? Well, for an elephant, there's 4 of them. You got to look at each one independently.
Yeah, you got tabs for the different.
You got tabs and if you want to see the specific hits and damage for that particular part of the mounted unit, you have to turn on that tab and press V again. So in the busyness of everything going on, it's a great question. Davos will get to that. Anyway, so it's a lot. It's more to process, I find, or maybe it's just I'm rusty or it's new.
I want to give the Dominions community some real credit here, because the initial reaction from people, which I think is completely understandable, is to go with mounts and riders separation in particular. It was kind of like who asked for that? That sounds like a kind of extra level of complexity or fiddliness. And a lot of people were saying, oh, it's not going to make any difference. And then people kind of saying, oh no, now cavalry will be terrible because the what happens in this
You
case? What
just
happens
kill
in
the
this case?
horse.
Exactly. I'll just kill the horse. And they're useless. Oh no. And my van thug, my van hearse, whatever. They're going to kill the horse, and I'll lose the entire thing. This is a disaster. Or the spells don't work on it. Something. I just want to assure people. This was the initial reaction to the Dominions community. Ilwyn to understand that it has to work in a way that's, results in good gameplay and makes sense. Like it has a bit of verisimilitude to it. And they're taking it seriously. They're doing that. I also just want to say that the Dominions community, having had that initial reaction, then started to go, "Oh, actually, this is really cool. This is going to change. This is going to be different." And I think they've reacted pretty well overall.
Well,
So,
my feeling on it so far is it's entertainingly fun. It's a
it's more chaotic.
Yeah,
That's definitely true.
it's an addition to the game that is providing me that sense of wonder and that sense of, hey, this is new.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get another coffee. You guys keep going.
So on that topic, I was just going to say I think Dominions has always thrived on being a pretty wild experience in a way. Obviously, it's a game with relatively minimal graphics and aesthetics and things, so it's not incredibly splashy. But it is a game that has, big chaotic elements in it and can do big stories. You've got your army of hundreds of mammoths charging along. You've got like minute kind of emergent story stuff in battles like this rider. Mammoth was killed from under him. He fell to the ground. He was attacked by this other guy. He hit the horse in the head with his sword and killed it. That guy fell to the ground and broke his leg and then stabbed by him. It's got these tiny little moments of drama in every battle.
Really good question here from Davos, probably for both Somber and I. How did expansion feel, and was it similar or different? So, my view was expansion. Oh, hold on. What's going on? Did my mic mess up? Bum, 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 bum. No, it looks good.
People hear Meland okay and me okay?
Yeah. I mean, the balance has been a little weird today. So what it felt to me was there's more independence. There's hidden kind of minefields or oddities that are new. So that messed me up. You need bigger expansion armies. And for me, there was more things that could go wrong, partly because there's new stuff. So my expansion was slower than usual. I don't know if that'll stay the way, because now that I've seen some of that stuff, I'm pretty sure you can rescript, and then there's more money, there's more resources, so you can buy more troops. I don't know. How did you feel about expansion, Somber?
I think feel is the perfect word to use around this, because you really do have to get a feel for expansion in every single game.
Exactly.
So you can be going, okay, I'm pretty sure we got this with minimal casualties. And once you've got a lot of experience in Dominions, you can be like, can I do this? How much am I going to lose? And you can predict it pretty well. Sometimes you screw up, and some barbarians with great swords wreck your day, and you lose an expansion party or something along those lines. I think that because we haven't really got the feel yet, that is part of where expansion is harder. It's definitely felt harder, because I've been going, I think I can take this, and then I'm wrong.
And then a wipe.
A bunch of times.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and that's a huge setback, obviously. And then there's been other times where I've gone, I have to be so careful here. I'm like, oh my god, I've just spent like 4 turns building up in order to try and take these 2 provinces, and then I just take them really easily, and I'm like, okay, I should have spent less time. I didn't need to combine those 2 armies there. I could use this trick. I could do, attack rear.
Well, and of course, the mounted changes affect expansion into cavalry.
Absolutely,
so it's trickier. I don't know if it's harder, but it's definitely trickier.
I think with mounted units that as we get into the mid game and late game, I think the fact that they're on most units or on a horse there's more things that can interact with that than in the early game. In the early game, and when you're expanding, the fact that a heavy cavalry, some of your hits are just going to be hitting the horse, who has more hit points than a human, and some of them will be hitting the human, means that overall those units are more durable, because you don't have area effect attacks. You don't have spells that going to hit the
Exactly.
horse. You don't have things that check magic resistance. So I think they're tougher early on. And in
And
insurrection, heavy cavalry are very scary.
for your mounted thugs, you now have barding.
Do the horses, like if you dismount the rider, do the horses automatically run? Or I guess that's a tag that each of the mounts will have is
The mounts
some of
do
them
seem
run, some of them don't.
they seem to
Yeah,
run.
it depends on the mount.
Oh, does it?
That's cool.
Okay. So if a
Does,
mount
yeah,
is
so-
intelligent or whatever.
Yeah, I've got a fun weird Dominions thing here, which is that I know that some mounts have different levels of stupid tag attached.
Oh, that's right. There's the stupid tag. Yeah.
Stupid 1, stupid 2, and stupid 3.
Right,
I don't
right.
fully know the
So
difference
funny.
between those, but I think stupid 3 is war lobsters and like nothing else.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, the total
like a
effects of
special
that.
kind of stupid.
And right now I had a look, and barding, there's 8 or 10 types of barding. They're very similar to the low to mid-level armors. So much the same kind of thing.
Forgeable barding, right?
Yeah, forgeable barding. Turin had an interesting question, but I probably won't answer it. He asked, do you think Illwinter will get to their intended design of more troops versus sacreds and magi? This has been brought up quite a lot. I don't really want to try to speculate on where things will go, how players will decide to play, because I just don't know, and I think it's really hard to do it. And if I was to predict that, I'd be setting up expectations that aren't reasonable. So I don't really have a feel. My comment in the Discord was that they've stated that this is their intent, that armies will be larger, there'll be a smaller ratio of magi to armies. But how all that's going to play out, it's changing out all the time as things get updated and corrected. So I don't have an answer to that one, Turin.
I'm going to give a two-part answer to this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Firstly, agree with you. Very difficult to speculate. It's hard. I think it's been hard to get across to people just how much has changed and how, because Dominions is a whole load of interrelated systems. It really is very complex interaction between all these different systems. So when you're changing the values of things, or you're changing the number of independents, or you're changing the bless system, or these things, in sum, all of these changes could result in one thing being a lot more powerful than others. It looks like we just lost Lucid. He did say that he may end up with a power cut because there's a big thunderstorm
okay,
there, but hopefully
okay.
he will come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in sum, it's really hard to say what's going to happen in any particular direction, particularly because things are currently changing as well. We're getting new builds every few days in the beta. But I also wanted to say I have a lot of confidence in Illwinter getting to their design goals for most players. And I say most players, I mean for single players, or a lot of people play multiplayer. But I agree, it's really hard to say what like the dominant meta will turn out to be in every community.
Yeah,
Will the dominant meta in some particular multiplayer communities actually turn out to be everything's about Hellblessed Sacreds?
Yeah,
It's really hard to predict.
The serious tryhards are going to find the edge cases, and then that's going to change things. And I'm no longer really one of them.
It's harder to predict, I would say.
Yes, yeah,
And
that's a good point.
I have confidence in Illwinter on reaching their design goals for most players.
Well, I don't know what you remember, but I don't remember them stating quite as clearly what their design goals were in the past. This is one of the clearest statements I've had Illwinter give on what are the design goals. So that's kind of new, or at least it feels that way.
I had a brief conversation with Christopher when I was first brought into the beta test team, and I was looking at the initial changes.
Yeah.
And I was just saying, I'm so happy with the like direction that you're going in, because I and a lot of other people are really like, I would like troops to be a bit more meaningful for longer and relevant for longer, and the game to be a little bit less about like, well, now the battlefield is a swirl of battlefield-wide spells that make everyone made out of metal, everything on fire, everything in poison clouds, and so on.
Right.
And he just sent me back a winking smiley, because I think he was aware that lots of people want that, and that's definitely just kind of going, yeah, that's
Not everybody, but definitely
not
there's
everyone.
a
No,
there's a
some people want
significant
it to
group.
be, yeah. I think some people want Dominions to be a bit less chaotic as well, and more kind of like rock paper scissors kind of puzzle
more
shaped.
predictable, more
Yeah, more predictable.
more determinant.
Yeah, or people who want like a lot more scripting slots and things like that.
Yeah,
That's kind of
yeah.
the direction they want to go.
They want more control rather than less. I'm very happy to have not maybe less control, but I'm quite fond of
Ooh.
the
Meaningful.
current.
Meaningful.
Hey, there he is.
I disconnected for a minute. Sorry there, guys.
Yeah, no, it's
What-
all right. We noticed,
But-
and
But this sounds like a topic I'm very interested in. Y'all are talking about scripting?
well, we were talking about will the stated design goal of larger armies with a higher ratio of troops to magi actually play out perhaps in the meta? That's where we're talking, and that led to the discussion of more control, such as more scripting slots, more scripting options, versus less control, chaotic versus determinant. So go ahead and we could talk about scripting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't
think
know.
the only thing I kind of was wondering on scripting is I think there's a class of players who wants like repeat last spell or something, which I think is like way too deterministic. Or even
Yeah, that's
just like
exactly what we were just talking about. Yeah.
That
heavy
yeah,
increase
yeah.
to last spell. And I feel like that's so deterministic. It makes the units feel like little machines instead of little people. And
Isn't
then
it
also,
interesting?
Well, I got asked what's my favorite feature of the series Dominions. And my answer is very clear. It's the WeGo system. It's the simultaneous, minimal control. Your dudes do stuff you don't want them to do. That's my favorite thing about this game.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Auto
super
battler has
mythology
become-
guy. Auto battler, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's become really popular now, but
Yeah.
Minions was pretty early. And
Well, from that period, the only game I can think of is Combat Mission, World War II.
yeah,
and
the
it,
Wii Go, yeah, Combat Mission was a great Wii Go game.
Yeah.
And then there were auto resolve stuff in like the Warlords, Dark Lords Rising game and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah, but it's fairly rare. Most turn-based strategy games are very deterministic. Age of Wonders or Endless Space, Endless Legend. You know, you look at them all and they're very deterministic. You exactly tell your units to do exactly what you want them to do.
Yeah, I think too, if you make a game that way, it changes. Like, in some ways, when you're doing a game, you're doing a job. And if you're telling literally every unit what to do, you're not really a general. You're more like a squad leader.
Well,
You know, like
A
generals don't
micromanager.
right. Generals don't do that. They're like, okay, here's the game plan. Here's y'all's job. Here's y'all's job. Here's y'all job. Go do it. You know?
yeah, and
I
then
think
there's
that's one of the things Dominions nails.
Then there's
Um,
scale, right? You play Civilization and you're Elizabeth in 2300 BC and you're still Elizabeth in 2100 AD.
Right.
You know, Elizabeth lives forever. That's not an emperor, that's God. Or something along those lines.
But I do think there is, I think, and it just came up when like I was trying to do the improved AI casting mod. Sometimes people want their guys to cast buffs off script, and sometimes they want them to do evocations, and sometimes they want them to do summons.
Hmm.
I can see giving players some more ability to control what's happening off script rather than a single one size fits all. But I don't think it should be at the level of like repeat last spell.
So I
So-
I mean, some of the suggestions we saw were like, evocation. I think when people say evocations, they don't mean spells from the evocation school. They
Right.
mean
Damage.
throw damage.
yeah,
Right.
spells that do damage, yeah.
Damage,
so
debuff, summon.
So
buff.
mind burn
Yeah,
or
protect yourself maybe was something
Right.
that somebody said. Like they could really prioritize anything gets near to them, or like buffing themselves if something's near them, like that.
yeah, I wouldn't mind if you could give a mage or whatever sort of a tactical goal, which would be
Right.
keep yourself alive or kill as much as you can or something like that. But I will
I think
comment.
that's in the line of what a general would do in a battle. Like, a
Right.
general would be like, your job is to do this.
Well,
And you'd be
you
like, okay,
are
I'll do that the best I can.
you are not to lead from the front because I need you to stay alive.
Right.
So I would say from the tester perspective that I feel like that part of it, the specific UI things to do with scripting and so on, I feel like there will be some changes during the testing period, and that's definitely not something where we're like, confirming anything at the moment, because I feel like that is still a bit. There's quite a bit of discussion in the testing group about that specifically.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible that we'll see something, but right now I don't know of anything in that Illwinter are doing on that area.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have
I don't
commented
know
that
what their
mu-
intention is there.
much of the focus right now is just bug stomping,
Yeah.
you know, and making the current mechanics actually work the way they were meant to work. That is a lot of the focus right now. So
a little reveal, we've got like a thread which is Christopher made some threads and pinned them in the testers group. One of them is like mounts are new, tell me all the bugs.
Yeah,
Sizes
yeah.
have all changed, tell me all the bugs, because
Yeah.
he knows that there's going to be, like, if you change the size of everything in the game, there's going to be some bugs to do with that. Like
Exactly. Like great way to put it is that specific bug threads for bugs related to the new features.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look over the text questions just for a sec. We're kind of covering most of these. I can't really answer too much more about mounts. There's still so many to try. There's a bunch more questions in the text, Somber, about other mounts. But I think we've covered a lot about mounts. Somber, are you up for your discussion of the map system right now?
Yeah, this is just something that I wanted to bring up, and this will involve revealing some new things, because I think it's kind of important.
This is a reveal. This is a new reveal here for the first time. Breaking news. Breaking news. You heard it here first.
It's probably not going to change, so it'll probably be in the game. So one thing that people were really worried about when they first heard about layers, I actually remember there was a couple of people specifically feeling kind of down when they heard about layers and things in map generation, because they were saying, "Oh, well, we're not going to have custom maps anymore because you'll be forced to do all of these layers and it's all of this extra stuff." It's a bit like when Aliens 5 had the winter version of the map, the winter winters. It's like I gotta do a whole other version of all the graphics in the map. That's harsh. And so there were people worried about that, and then they heard about, this is also confirmed, that there are things that change the terrain game. They change what the terrain of a province is. So a province goes from being a plains to a forest under certain circumstances. It goes from being a plains to an arid wasteland under certain circumstances, or the sea expands and floods an entire province and the province falls into the sea.
Right.
And the map makers go,
yeah.
Like, how? What? No, I don't. Oh god, I have to draw this province as a forest, a wasteland, as a sea. Like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And they don't like it. They don't like the sound of it. So I just wanted to cover some things to do with that. And the first thing is something that Meerland actually revealed earlier.
Yes.
Today he was in Lucid's Discord, which was that you have a map from Dominions 5. So do you remember the map Silent Seas, the classic map?
Very much so. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a map I use for quick expansion testing because it's small.
So you've got Silent Seas, got the map. Firstly, it's pretty trivial to get it working in Dominions 6. Secondly, it's pretty trivial to have a cave layer, Silent Seas, with entrances that go down from the provinces on the surface down into the cave layer. And the reason for that is that you can have the game, when it loads up Silent Seas, generate a cave layer to your specification and add it underneath that map.
It's a checkbox, and I opened up I opened up an arena test game with 2 nations to test communions, and I opened it up, and there, amazingly, was a cave entrance sitting in my capital, and I was so excited. I hit the button for underground or cave plane, and there it was, a generated underground layer. But I was loading the old Dominions 5 arena map. So without me doing anything, the game itself created the plane, which has all kinds of implications of. So you
To
can,
your specifications, you can say whether you want that or not, and you can say
yeah. If you
how
don't
big
want
should
it,
it be.
I just left that click box on. If you don't want it, yeah, and there's some. Yeah, that's right.
Does
There's some
is it like
selections.
does it like map to the like it does it
I don't
is it
know. It looked like
totally a
it.
different size and scale of map, or like is there some geometry between the two planes that like lines up? Do you know?
It depends.
Okay.
It's both. It's both.
It's both. Okay, cool.
It's a separate thing, and it lines up.
Well,
Okay.
I think
Or
it's
it can line up,
reasonable.
or it cannot.
If you played
So like when
Conquest of
maybe a
Elysium,
different way to postulate it, it could be like when the map maker makes it automatically, it'll make it where it mostly lines up. But then maybe if you did like a custom one, you could make it where it doesn't line up or something. Is that
Definitely could make it so that it doesn't line up. Yep.
okay? Cool.
Definitely do
well,
that. If that's appropriate thing for your custom map.
the other thing I don't think is too much to say is that similar to Conquest of Elysium, if you go down into the cave layer or cave plane, it's not like a continuous everything. It's mostly impenetrable rock, and there's some little caves, and there was a bunch of little mushrooms as decoration, and
Right.
so if there's an entrance, there's going to be at least a few squares of cave or areas of open cave. How far they go, who knows? And will there be diggers? I don't know. It'd be cool to have diggers. There's diggers in Elysium, like you can get that item that lets you dig a new
The old
hole.
Age of Wonders games had
And
that
Age of
burrowing
Wonders have
units.
all kinds of burrowing units, and maybe we'll get those. As somebody mentioned, cave grubs would be an obvious one, but
Yep.
who knows? We don't. I haven't seen anything like that. These are just speculative possibilities.
So let's move on from the world of caverns for a second, because
Mhm.
I told you that story so I could tell you a story I'm more excited about.
Yeah, totally. Like
So
blueprints, right?
what I wanted to get at was the things that map makers have been really worrying about. Illwinter is aware of, and you can see that they're aware of those things because of stuff like this. I'll give you another example. Previously, if you wanted to demonstrate that a province was under the effects of cold dominion, so it had snow in it, the rivers were frozen, and so on, you could look on the information for that bit of terrain and find that out. You needed an image for the like snow version of the map, so you can still do that in Dominion 6. That's not gone away. But also, if you haven't done that, Dominion 6 will add in a filter so that the thing looks like whited out, to show that it's under that cold dominion. So again, they're thinking of making things easier for mappers. The thing that I really want to talk about is the map generator blueprint system.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of things I want to say about this, but
Can I ask a question first
go ahead.
off?
Can
How would you define this blueprint? Because what I can see is when I go to create a new world, I have these little mini pictures of the rough layout of how a random map will be. Are those blueprints?
somewhat. I think
Okay.
they are actually using the same logic as the blueprint. They're not the
Okay.
actual blueprint function. So
Yeah,
those
so
are
you can
like,
pick a map with little ponds and wrap, or you can pick a map that's an island surrounded by water.
Yeah.
So-
So what you're affecting there is the shape of the land masses
Right.
and the sea, basically the relationship between those two things, and that is fundamentally what the blueprint system is doing. So if you imagine, so I did this earlier. I took map Silent Seas, which, as you know, is one big island with lots of features on it, and then one little island in the bottom right. So I took that and I did some editing to it to make it appropriate to load as a blueprint, and then I loaded it as a blueprint, and I told the minions, make me a map from this blueprint, this landmass blueprint. So the shape of the Silent Seas thing with its lakes and the little island in the bottom
Really?
right-hand side. And I said, I want this many provinces. I want the sea provinces to be roughly this large. I want, this ruggedness of mountains and all the stuff. So I said that, and it made me a Dominionsified version of Silent Seas.
So a random map with random terrain, but based upon the shape.
Based upon landmass, which you are specifying. And you can specify it to quite a sharp degree of detail.
Wow.
High fidelity. So you can say, you can take a map of Europe, if you're a map maker, can say all of this is land. You can say all of this is sea. You can draw the coasts very nicely if you want to. Throw that in as a blueprint, and you can say dominions, make me a map with this many provinces that fits this landmass and sea shape.
Now, did you do this in the in-game map editor?
No, because it doesn't work currently.
Oh, okay.
You can fire up the blueprints, but yeah, there's some bugs with the map editor, so it's not available at all at the moment. Moving on, so that I think already opens up a bunch of possibilities, right, for people being able to easily make some interesting maps and to specify a kind of a structure that they then can tweak so that it's suited for like symmetrical maps and things like that.
Oh yeah, okay,
You're able to do those because you can go, I want this cross.
Well, I bet you.
I want these hexagons or whatever.
I bet you Nuke will be interested in this discussion.
So you could probably do. I think that, like, with that, it sounds like, especially if you can influence cap placement, you could, probably make the random generator more balanced. Like, you could have more balanced starts, which is like a huge problem with them in Dominions 5 right now.
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can definitely take a starting point and then make it more balanced. I probably can make a thing that's more balanced from the get-go, but I think you quickly get a lot of returns from tweaking it a bit afterwards after you've made
right. Going in and hand massaging the start locations,
deciding where the start locations are and so on. Yeah, or trying out a few different variations of it.
Wow.
For the graphics, though.
Yeah, this sounds great.
Be the generated graphics, right? But it would come with benefits, like you can get the terraforming and things like that. But
yeah, so that's what I was. Sorry,
but like if people want to play on a Pymus map or something, or they want to play on an Executor map or something like that.
Well, right now you can definitely just load it in.
Right. Okay.
And it'll it'll deal with the winter part, and it'll deal with you'll use the filters, like terrain changes.
Adds the underground.
Yeah, if you want an underground, you could just turn that on.
We know that stuff. You just have to look at icons.
Well,
I don't think that's quite finished, and I don't know if we want to talk about that necessarily.
Right.
The terraforming part of that. But I will say that it isn't attempting to change that image, obviously. Directly.
Right. Yeah, that would be like that would be like Mid-Journey or something.
I had a
Dominion 6.
I had a
be very jarring, right?
I had a related question. Can a map maker feed the generator the map maker's own? Now, I believe that the elements you use to make a province are little sprites, right? Like your trees and if you've got little houses and stuff. Can you feed that into the map generator, your own custom art?
I think I shouldn't get into that particularly because the map editor's broken.
Okay, so we don't know that. Yet.
What features it has is probably not the best idea. I think I'll stick to the blueprint, but there is something else I wanted to say about this, which I think is also exciting. So, if you use the Dominions map generator, we're going to get a bit technical here for a moment, super technical, but know that Dominions maps are basically made up of some image files, like TGAs. Like this is the map file, this is the winter version of the map file, and so on.
Right.
You've got a map document, a .map file, which is a text file which specifies things like province borders, connections, and so on. It's a whole load of text and numbers.
Yeah.
And it specifies the terrain. So if you generate something in D6 using the map generator, you get a D6M file.
Yeah, that's the new thing. Ooh. Yeah, the D6M.
And the map file is there's a lot less in it than there used to be. It can still have all of the stuff in it that it had before, but it doesn't make it generated. The reason for that is that some of that is encoded into the settings of the D6M file. The D6M file's job, primarily, is to provide a visual representation of the map. So you can see that because the terrain can change, like on the fly, it's obviously not just storing like a bunch of flat images. That's not really how it's doing it. Instead, it's going, D6M is telling me that this province is a forest. I make it look like Dominions, the engine, makes it look like a forest, and so on. The D6M is what stores the stuff like, I believe, so I haven't quite gone to the code diving here, but it basically is storing the kind of like ruggedness and so on of the map.
Oh.
Here's the interesting thing. If you make a D6M, so I made Silent Seas, right? out of the blueprint. So I got a D6M file for that, and I got a map file for that. The map file had the province connections in it, and it had terrain masks in it. It didn't have province names in it, and the terrain masks were different. They used to be. They were weird. They were just saying, "Is this a big province? Is this a small province? Is this underwater?
Oh.
Is this deep underwater? Is this land?" That's what they were saying. They weren't saying that this is a forest, or this is a plains, or this is a swamp. That information's all in the D6M. The interesting thing is you can change what terrain things have in the map file, and then they will start as that terrain. So I could say I want Silent Seas, I want this province to be, forest, I want this province to be a swamp, and I want this one to be farmland, just like the Silent Seas map used to be the custom map. But I could just say these are big, these are small, and so on. And then the D6M is handling whether they are forests or swamps. That is defined when the game starts, not by the map file.
Oh,
And what I mean by that is if you start a game on this map that I made, the Silent Seas blueprint map, first time you start it, they will have different terrain masks. The provinces will be different terrain, and the second game I started with it.
Oh, so the map isn't actually identical from like two
oh,
games on the same map.
And it could be, because you could define those in the map file, which is like the static
I see.
defining it. They'll start like that. Just because they can change.
Wait, are you
entirely static.
meaning if we looked, like, let's say we have Silent Seas or whatever, or no, just the same random map file, and I play it in game 1 and then I play it in game 2. In game 1 we start in the exact same province 192 each time. Are you saying that in game 2 my cap circle could be different?
Yep.
Or it would just look different?
oh my,
It would be different.
oh my.
It would be different. Oh man.
So, can
That's
we
mind-bending
take
a
a
little.
can we take a pause from the map stuff to answer some text questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. First off, Dark Wolf, this is Merlin. You were listening to Lucid and Sombre previously. Second question, is the new lobby system suitable for long games? Right now, the new lobby system shows up and doesn't function. So we don't know. We don't know anything about how it's going to work.
Can use it, but we can't.
Yeah, we can't use it. It doesn't work for us. So we have no way to tell you anything about the new lobby system, except we know it's there. And it will be there. It's promised. Let's see what else we got. Was there any more that I can really answer? There's a bunch of questions about the map in system in detail, like nodes and stuff. If I could, you guys chat with Somber on Lucid's Discord about that after. Because I can't answer it, and it's kind of tricky for me to translate from my text screen over to him. So talk to him about that later.
I don't want to get into a lower level, a more granular level of detail.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can talk about it on the Discord to some extent.
Yeah, and that
So
save those questions for doing on the Discord. Go ahead, Lucid. I think that's it for
I've
the.
got one more map thing. I don't know if you want to keep doing text stuff.
Just let me see if there's anything else here. No, I think that's it for the time being. Go ahead, Lucid.
So there was I know Nuke is looking at like how he's going to update Map Nuke. And one of the really cool features that he did a couple years ago in Map Nuke was that basically you could have your own like asset template, basically, that would like we had Isataris came in and did like the parchment style. So there's
right.
two, and there's Pendleton.
That's kind of what I was getting at with the thing about the little pieces of the art that build up to build a province.
Yeah,
right.
People use
right, the doodads and stuff. I highly doubt it, but it would just be. I'm just imagining because it sounds like. I'm just thinking back to like when I played. What is it? Wizard? No, what was it? Masters of Magic. Right.
Okay.
There was like really heavy terraforming you could do in that. It was really fun. It was like, I don't know, and it's cool that that stuff is coming to Dominions. And I'm just thinking, what if there were ways where we could put in like the community, there could be a whole mod for like custom doodad palettes for I doubt it's going to go in, but we can't have talked about it without me thinking how cool it is.
I can't answer the question about that because like Firstly, like I said, the map editor is broken, so
Right.
just non-functional, completely non-functional for me at the moment. Maybe functional for Illwinter. I can't talk about what that has. I don't know, and if I did know, I might not be able to talk about it either. I would have to check, I think.
Yeah.
What I would say, and this is kind of like a related thing, is that the conversation I had with Johan, stuff has not too much to do with the map stuff. He said that it would be possible for people making custom maps, map makers and so on, to handle the terraforming side of things. That's what he thought would be the case.
Oh,
because I
okay.
because I haven't seen it specifically, I'm not going to say like, oh yeah, I'm completely confident that that's true. I'm not sure exactly what he meant by that, but he's certainly aware of that. Like I made
Right,
sure that he was
right.
aware that people were going, my beautiful map.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
My beautiful baby child.
I know the way Executor makes maps is he's got, I think he uses GIMP, but he's got really beautiful maps.
Oh yeah.
But he
Uses
has
the Jason
basically
Lutz
like
style, doesn't he?
yeah, and he's got just this huge archive of all these doodads and textures, and he just copies and pastes them around.
Sure.
And I can imagine even in just the normal mod style format where you have a folder with a bunch of images in it, and you're just like, tree 1 is this, tree 2 is this, tree 4 is this, until you have all the things, because that's what Illwinter's doing in the back
That's
end.
what the D6M is doing.
Right, that's what that's doing. So if that,
It's
this
pulling
is not,
it's pulling little
this
art
is where
assets.
I can do this because I'm not on the base team. I'm just like wild speculation about how cool something would be. Holy shit! If we got to do that, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I will say
does-
I
it
do
does sound
prefer
cool.
the custom map art to the random map generator art in Dominions 5. I'll just put
Random
that
map
out there.
generators stuff in Dominion 6 is a bit better than the one
Okay.
in 5. I would say that to start off with.
Okay.
It's not
That's cool.
radically different. It is nicer looking.
It looks a little better, and it does seem to make fewer garbage maps.
Yeah.
Maps that just have terrible connections and weird, stupid layouts. It doesn't seem to make as many of those.
And the terraforming works really well in it. It's very cool. So I would say that as well.
Yeah. I'm imagining that. It sounds really cool.
Now, can we talk about, like, we know that there's terraforming based upon, I believe we know that there's terraforming based upon,
I think,
some things
Scales.
related to scales. We know that.
Yeah.
Is there magical terraforming? And
this is straying into the area of I won't confirm things.
Yeah, well,
it's just what I've decided.
and I
think
don't
it was
know.
already confirmed that there is something that can happen that makes an entire land province fall into the sea. I believe that's already.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to
It's
mention,
pretty scary.
somebody asked about the planes. Currently, there are 3 planes in the game you can see in the screenshot. We know that the main is the main. We know that the second is cave. We're not quite sure what the third is. My guess is it's kind of a void. Like, the old void. That's just a guess on my part because I don't know, because you can't.
Screenshots.
Yeah, the third plane. You can't. I haven't been able to get there. However you get there, I don't know how you get there. So I can't look at it in a game. So I can't confirm one by the other. But the question that was brought up was, will there be water under the cave? Who knows? I mean, if you go by Conquest of Elysium, there may be more planes. But we don't know. That's about all I can really say on that.
That they put on the
It's
Does
got
have 3.
it's got the 3. I don't know what the third one is because it's grayed out inactive in any game I've tried.
Right.
I have tested that a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go into.
Okay.
Into what that is.
So it's something we have to hang on a bit.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
have to come later. I think that's kind of so. Illwinter obviously wants the big splashy things to be either product bullet points, basic. Well, not this is making it sound very corporate. They want it to be like, here's our new game. It's got this cool new stuff in it. Right? And they also want to go, as time passes, go, here is another thing that we want to reveal to you.
Yeah. Here's a
screenshots. We need the Dominions community frantically hitting F5. On the Dominion 6 page. That's what it looks like.
Exactly.
So obviously you can imagine they wanted to be the ones to talk about the underground thing, which they were, of course, because that's quite a big thing, planes and dominions, because they were in Conquest of Elysium. And obviously, you could imagine if there is more plane stuff, that would be something that they would
One of the
talk about
answers,
rather than have a tester talk about it.
yeah, I think one of the answers I often have been giving is, if it's in Conquest of Elysium, you can kind of conclude there's a chance there's things moving from Conquest Elysium over to Dominions. We know that. So
Yeah, there's stuff they know how to do technically, and
Right.
they're things that they're interested in designing games.
right. But somebody asked, one of the things they asked is there going to be like big units take up 4 squares on the battle map? We do know no, that isn't how it's working. So there's some things
I think that's been confirmed.
yeah, and as well, obviously the Dominions map is node based with borders, not square based like Elysium. So some things from Elysium just don't work and won't related to that. So that's one thing you can kind of look at it and go, and who knows, it could be something like another plane shows up as a patch down the road or whatever.
Cut out a bit there. Did he cut out for you as well, Lucid?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, okay.
I was assuming it was my internet connection since I
No,
had
no,
a
it
storm going on.
must have been not mine. But anyways, that's about all I had to say about that. Hey, Kirby. Yeah, Turin just confirmed Amis already has talked a bit about the third plane. So if you want more information on the third plane, go to Immersion, see what he has to say. Oh, yes, that was another one. New
I'm
mechanics.
gonna resist ranting about Amis now.
Yeah, whatever. But that's not my business. Are there new mechanics with sieges? I don't know. Somber may have had some sieges yet. What I can confirm is, as stated by some others, there's been a boost in the power of forts and a boost in the power of fort defenders. But I have no idea if there's additional stuff going on when you do a siege. I haven't seen it because I haven't tried.
Cutting in and out a lot.
Am I?
Yeah, I hope your stream's good because it's tough for Somber and I to follow.
It could be Discord because everything looks good. Folks on the stream, am I cutting in and out or is it a Discord problem? Oh, anyways, everything looks good on my end, so it might be just Discord's giving me grief. Yeah, no, it's good on Twitch and on YouTube, so it's
That's good.
something between you guys and me.
Yeah, it's Discord, I imagine.
Yeah, well, that's happened.
Oh, it's kind of funny. Kirby posted in my Discord something by I don't even know how you say their name. JSaw, but the lightning stuff tends to have a tag that affects mounts and rider, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
You already confirmed that. I was pretty sure that had already been.
Yeah, I call him JSO, or JSO.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you mean the guy from?
Because it annoys him.
Oh, okay. But you know, he's the guy from Ruby.
He's the Discord owner, I think, or admin.
Yeah, he's admin over
so
there.
think about things that hit vertically, right?
Right.
They're hit
Okay.
The rider and the mount. The lightning bolt comes down vertically. Think about some other things that might be like that, and you'll get an idea of what might be.
Solar rays. What else? Astro geyser. Or that might be area of effect. Oh no, those are both area of effect. What's
Maybe
vertical?
a boulder.
Gifts from heaven.
That's area of effect too.
Well,
yeah.
It only affects
vertical. That's not area of effect.
Yeah. Good question brought up by Kirby. Has Lanka changed? Given that it's quite different in Elysium. To be frank, I have seen not much in the way of changes to nations, with one obvious exception. Glamour is particularly part of the Celtic nations. That's the big change. Other than that, I've seen little in the way of changes to the vanilla, the Dominions 5 nations.
The Lanka, like Demon-S capital mage must have glamour paths.
Well, maybe. And I did kind of, in a moment of excitement.
Stealth and seduction. Like, come on.
Well, here's a fun tidbit.
What do you want to bet on that, Lucis? Let's have a little Gentleman's wager.
Yeah, go for a wager there. I'll bet you 12
I'll
turns of
Venmo
expansion.
you like $3 if that's not
Oh
the case.
no, it's no.
Uh, but this
I'll
does
give you a
bring
check.
up
I'm
a.
gonna check that. It's okay for me to confirm. Just keep checking.
There was a fun thing came up in my band art. I summoned a Yakshini, and she had Glamour instead of Astral. So that led to kind of glancing, and it looks like there's Glamour on some of the Monkey Nation summons. So could there be Glamour on Lanka? Yeah, I haven't looked.
Okay. I'm gonna file an official protest if that Lanka cat mage. What's it? The Raga? What's it called?
The Seducer?
Is it the Raksharaja or the
Or-
Rakshasi?
Do you mean the Rakshasi, the Seducer?
The Rakshasi, right? That's the female.
The crazy Seducer?
Yeah. She literally uses Glamour to change from a human to like, or from an
able to
ape to
change
beguile
shape?
people as a
To an
human.
alluring redheaded. Yeah, alluring
Yeah.
redhead
It's
instead
like-
of a horrifying human monkey
Right.
thing.
It like literally is Glamour.
Yeah,
Like it's
so
not even really a shape change, right? It's more like it's just like hiding her true form while she seduces you.
okay,
It's awesome.
You are correct that it is literally glamour. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, well, okay.
Shocking revelation. that
Yeah.
One mage,
Yeah,
Falanka, does have glamour.
she has
Does
Glamour.
it actually?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
It does use glamour magic.
Another thing I will mention related to that is there has been some first cut rebalancing of blood magic costs. They don't look really all that big, and it was clearly stated that in general, troop summons have had their amounts increased to fit with the entire idea of more troops, less magi. And generally, single summons, commander summons have not. That's very broad. That's a very broad comment, and the specifics are probably much more, granular than that. But as a broad concept, I had a look, and most summons are much more efficient, and we were told they would be much more efficient. So I'm hoping this means we'll start to see even crap like Sea Dogs become useful. So that's something I noticed.
Yeah, that'll
So
be
we
fun. That's going to be something that might really shift the meta up. I mean, if things get twice as efficient in summons, I think people, like the players, are really going to have to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and maybe a lot better than Thug Gear and stuff like that for some things.
Well, you get Sea
Yeah,
Dogs so
more
early.
Expansion.
You might
Yeah.
you might be able to use Sea Dogs for expansion.
Yeah, and once you start talking about the kind of early mid summons, where like a forest troll tribe or
Mhm.
like that, if those are more efficient, obviously you're looking at maybe if you know you're going to have your first war, or if you're being attacked by a second person, you need to bulk up your army and go with some, you've got specific point buffs that you know that you can use on them.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
may actually be an efficient thing to do now.
Right.
To mass some tough summons.
Definitely. So that could make some significant changes in how people do the early mid game and the late game. Also, it's not a spill or a giving up information. We know that provinces are bigger, they make more gold, and they have more population, which means potentially you can get more blood. How all that's going to work, I don't know. I mean, that's just so a rebalance of the costs of summons from the blood magic path may yet happen. There may be more of it. That would be kind of how I'd put that one.
I'm actually running out of time over here, so I'm going to have to sign off, gentlemen.
Well, we're coming up to the hour. Actually, no, we're almost an hour and a half, and I only really intended an hour. I don't have too much more to talk about. So feel free if you got to go. We're good.
Okay. It was really fun talking with you guys. I hope we do it a couple more times before. It
Yeah.
gets
Oh,
released.
for sure. Yeah, I'm glad you came because having somebody who's not on the beta in the voice was really useful, besides the text questions, to sort of,
Yeah.
is there something that
Rampant
has,
speculation.
well,
I
also,
like doing rampant speculation as much as anyone else, because not everything is finished that's in Dominion.
Oh, for sure.
So I am still speculating about things that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
and as well, if something that we kind of have already seen seems blatantly clear to us, you've been here to say, oh, that doesn't make sense. How does that work?
Right.
So very useful. Glad you came by. Yeah, super. It's
All
been
right. Thanks for
it's
having me.
been I think a year since you and I have or over
Oh
a
my
year.
gosh, it can't have been that long.
We
Yeah.
finished the tournament last August, I believe.
Huh. Okay.
Or
Yeah,
was
coming
it
right
later
up on
than
it
that?
then.
Yeah, something like
The
that.
older you get, the quicker it goes.
I know.
I know.
Oh man.
All right, gentlemen. I'm gonna go have dinner. So I will see you. And thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, take care, buddy.
Take care.
Thanks, Lucid. I am also going to sign off, Malad, although I will be in the Discord for a bit. If anyone's, the main thing I want people to ask me about is if they're really worried about something. I don't want people to worry about things that the
Yeah.
testers have been saying, where they're saying something and then people are going, "Oh no, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
This is going to be horrible. This is going to be broken."
Yeah, let's
Reassure people. And so those are the questions I tend to answer, is if you're really worried. But don't pretend you're worried about something, because I will notice.
Well, and I like that idea in that yeah, like don't predict doom yet because everything's in flux. Most everything's in flux.
It's the wrong thing to do to make assumptions that everything except the thing that you're talking about is going to stay the same. Therefore, you understand what the thing you're talking about. Like if someone says, there's some change to the way flyers work or something like that. You go, oh man, if flyers work that way, that means that this nation's terrible now. Oh no, my favorite nation's ruined.
Yeah.
Well, that might be true if nothing else had changed, but lots of things have changed. So
Yeah, and it's really hard to figure out the interactions between some of these mechanics changes. Some of them are quite
predict.
some of them are quite how they interact is hard to see at this time. Great. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks a bunch.
Yep. Good talk. Let's do it again sometime.
You bet.
You
You bet.
enjoyed it and found it useful. So bye for now.
Bye-bye. Hey, virtual person. Yes. Okay, well, I'll do a few more minutes just to answer any more questions, 5-10 minutes, and then I'll sign off as well. So let's see. Let's go back through the text. Sea dogs are good at running away. Well, yes, they are. I mean, I don't know if twice as many sea dogs makes them any good or not, but Germ, not on the monkeys themselves. Did you mean the glamour? There is no glamour magic on the Bandar recruitable magi, but the summons they get from Kalesa have it. Smite. I don't know. I used some smites. They were highly effective. I couldn't really tell. I wasn't watching closely enough to see if they are single target or they hit mount and rider. Unit vampires, I don't know. I haven't looked at them to see what unit vampires can do yet. Let's see. Anything else? Blood being too good. It maybe is, but there's, there has been some pricing changes. There may be more. Flying carpet. Can't tell you. Ask me in Discord about flying carpet, and I can look it up. Is Dom 6 more glamorous? Well, it's got glamour. I'm having a lot of fun just exploring it, so I'm not doing. Some of the other guys are being much more particular about bug hunting deliberately. I'm just kind of playing it to get a feel. Have I tried out M.A. Ermer? Nope. Not at all. Never was a favorite nation of mine anyways. So I never really liked the undead nations. Just purely an issue of taste. Okay, so looks like that's about it. I'm gonna sign off. This will be available if you want to watch it again on my YouTube. Twitch doesn't keep them, but YouTube does. So, and maybe I'll take it and put some chapters in it or something. I'll have a look. See how my motivation goes. Yeah, the stream chat was awesome. that's a great way to do this. I got confirmation from Millwinter that this was okay. All right. Thanks for coming. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.